Good news, folks. In this video, I'll be sharing with you all of the most important stimulus news that you want to know. So let's get into the most important news first. A new deduction allowed by the IRS could help you get an even larger income tax refund from the government. The IRS recently added a new above-the-line deduction for charitable donations this year, thanks to the CARES Act from President Biden. So usually those taxpayers who take a standard deduction are not able to deduct their charitable contributions. The new law permits taxpayers to claim a limited deduction on their 2021 income tax return for cash contributions made to certain qualifying organizations. Now, single taxpayers in one state may be in line to receive a $200 Christmas bonus. This is in the state of Illinois, everybody. So if you're from Illinois, keep watching.
So after the Democrats lost the races in November, including Virginia and across the country, they said they had to do something to help energize their Democrat donors. And they looked for something they could put in this reckless tax and spending bill, which would help those folks out. And what they put in there is something that's going to turn out to be cash for Christmas for their largest donors. This is something that was not in the original bill, and Nancy Pelosi just put it in after the elections in November. So who benefits? Well, the people who own the penthouse apartments in New York City that overlook Central Park, who hold the big fundraisers for the Democrats, the people who own the mansions in California and San Francisco and in Hollywood, who hold the big fundraisers for the Democrats. And how much are they going to benefit? Well, by estimates, on average, it's going to be above $15,000 per individual taxpayer. These are all millionaires. They are billionaires. Their income is very high. And you know, where are they from? We've mentioned California, Chicago, New York, New Jersey. You know, they call it SALT, state and local taxes. They pay high taxes at the local level, and now they're going to be, thanks to the Democrats, able to write them off on their federal taxes.
If approved, those single filers making less than $75,000 will receive $200, while joint filers earning less than $150,000 will receive $400. This could cost the state nearly $1.4 billion, but the state could rely on funds from the American Rescue Plan to support the bill. Illinois state representatives also said that $400 won't make all the problems go away, but it could have a positive impact. It could be an extra week or two of groceries, and it could pay a few utility bills. Do you support this new $400 stimulus check? Tell me in the comments below. And plus-up payments are additional stimulus checks that are sent out to people who send a stimulus payment based on their 2019 tax return. And when stimulus checks were introduced at the beginning of the crisis, they were given out based on the most recent tax return on file. The second round of stimulus payments were issued in March 2021, at a time when many people had not filed their 2020 taxes. Now, a number of Americans saw their income decrease from 2019 to 2020, so therefore, some people may have received a lower amount than they were entitled to. That's due to the fact that the amount was based on an outdated tax return. If you are a taxpayer in the country and your income was lower than in 2020 than it was in 2019, then you were entitled to receive a plus-up payment. In addition, this directly applies to anybody who claimed to be an elderly or disabled dependent, as they handled their taxes in 2020 and also saw an elder or disabled relative who was under the care of the individuals. Now, the deadline to submit your 2020 tax return is December 31st. Therefore, it is better to act sooner than later. Thank you again for your support, everybody. If you have any more questions about the fourth stimulus checks, leave them in the comments below. Until next time, have a great day.
Campbell, you're recognized for your
Thank
questions.
you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank you and Senator Fisher for both being stalwarts and getting this hearing done. I think this is the third hearing we've had on supply chain, so very much appreciated, and appreciate all the witnesses being here today to talk about this important issue. I don't know if any of you caught Fareed Zakaria's discussion a couple of weeks ago about supply chain and the Infrastructure Investment Act. I thought it was great, and I'll submit this to the record if I can.
Without objection.
But basically, he was talking about the percentage of infrastructure investment as it relates to GDP and how we had fallen off getting to less than 1% down to 0.7%, but obviously with the infrastructure bill by 2026, we'd get up to 1.3%. So while we're dealing with these phenomenons that Mr. Butler adequately describes in his opening statement about the impacts of being able to order more and import more and the challenges of COVID, we also have to keep in mind that we have to make significant infrastructure investments. So I think you would all agree that that was a good thing that we made these infrastructure investments, and now that we have to get them actually implemented. Is that correct? Do you think that this helps immensely in changing the picture here?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so now we're talking about new patterns in addition to this very historic pattern of underinvesting in infrastructure. And I say this coming from a big trading state, so obviously we are exporters and importers, but a lot of our products, practically every sector is, an international. More than half of the business is. If you're talking about Washington wheat, 90% of it is exported. If you're talking about our other agricultural products, it's export. If you talk about airplanes, the markets are exports. So we care about both, but I'm interested in following on the discussion about the congestion that is occurring at the ports. And Mr. Butler, you mentioned some of the innovation that is occurring to try to temporarily move these containers to other locations. What else should we be doing to try to expedite that? And what should we be doing? I'm not so sure how much discussion has happened on the rail side this morning, because obviously the price of rail affects this issue as well. And a few years ago, we had really exacerbated problems of ag product not even being able to get onto the rail because oil was pushing it off. So what do we need to do to help get more innovation and moving congestion out of the ports on these containers? And what do we need to do to think about rail? And maybe Mr. Reagan or Mr. Doyle, you can answer that.
Chair Cantwell, you've hit the nail on the head, which is that our ports are the interface with the sea, and that is the most valuable commercial real estate in our country. And it is limited in terms of space. We know in many of these ports, there's not much room to grow physically. So we have to use that space as efficiently as possible. And to the extent that we can move some of that activity off of the terminals, that provides a buffer that keeps things moving. And that's essentially what we're trying to do right now in Southern California.
Good news, folks. In this video, I'll be sharing with you all of the most important stimulus news that you want to know. So let's get into the most important news first. A new deduction allowed by the IRS could help you get an even larger income tax refund from the government. The IRS recently added a new above-the-line deduction for charitable donations this year, thanks to the CARES Act from President Biden. So usually those taxpayers who take a standard deduction are not able to deduct their charitable contributions. The new law permits taxpayers to claim a limited deduction on their 2021 income tax return for cash contributions made to certain qualifying organizations. Now, single taxpayers in one state may be in line to receive a $200 Christmas bonus. This is in the state of Illinois, everybody. So if you're from Illinois, keep watching.
So after the Democrats lost the races in November, including Virginia and across the country, they said they had to do something to help energize their Democrat donors. They looked for something they could put in this reckless tax and spending bill, which